Hello, hello. Hello, hello. I think we're live. I just realized that I actually have never done a YouTube live. I've done webinars, I've done Instagram lives, I've done all kinds of lives, but just not YouTube lives. Um, but we're here. Yay. And it works. So if you are here, please let me know in the chat. Just write, hey, anything. Would love to know who's here. We might be with like a very small little group today, or nobody could be here, and it's all fine. If nobody's here, I'm just gonna talk about something that comes up that I just think of, and it will be kind of like an impromptu little master class. But if you're here, I see Keshi. Hello. Hi, welcome. If you're here and you have questions, ask them. We can just have a chat. You are watching from Nairobi. Isn't that awesome? Gosh, you're in Nairobi. Is that like the same time zone as here? Or is that one time zone over? That's so cool. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Ask me your questions or tell me what you want me to talk about. That's fine too. Any which way you want to do this is fine. Might be almost like a one-on-one consultation, which is awesome. It's 9 p.m. here. Oh, so it's one time zone over. It's 1 hour later. I always think it's so weird that, time zones, it's like almost like a wave, but then with daylight. Okay, that's weird. I'm sorry. I'll cut it out. Yeah. All right. So I'm just gonna wait for questions. And while I do that, I am going to talk about, gosh, there's so much to talk about. I'm looking at my phone because I just got a question from one of my Dutch girls about HOCD and ROCD. So the fearful avoidant attachment style actually has a higher chance of having OCD. And then I think even specifically relationship OCD with the linked HOCD and POCD, which is homosexuality OCD and pedophilia OCD. You might not recognize it at all, and that's totally fine. It doesn't mean you don't have the fearful avoidant attachment style. It's possible. Like the correlation is higher. So just because I just got that question, I will talk a little bit about that until questions come in, and then I will answer questions. But I think I just want you to know that, because I want you to know what relationship OCD and the other types of OCD are, because we have this image of OCD that it's like these oh gosh, now I have to do all of this in English. I usually do this in Dutch. So don't mind me while I'm searching for words every now and then. And I cannot find the word right now. But with like the OCD that you typically see in like movies and stuff, which is where we sometimes get our examples, it's like you do a lot of things. Like you click the on and off button all the time. Truth is here, watching from UK. Welcome. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments and I'll or in the chat, and I'll answer them. You just see them clicking buttons like 28 times just to be sure that the light is off or the light's on. And that is a form of OCD for sure. But there is also a form where you are just in your head obsessively thinking. And that has a high correlation with the fearful avoidant attachment style in and of itself. And that comes from research. So that's actually researched. But why I think that is because being safe is so incredibly important if you have the trauma of the sense of impending doom. So you have trauma coming from childhood, and you have this sense of unsafety. So you find safety in external factors or in yourself. And I noticed that more with the fearful avoidant attachment style than the other two and insecurely attached. Um, People, FAs, let's just call them FAs just for now, fearful avoidance, have the tendency to judge their feelings and their thoughts pretty harshly. So you have to think this, you have to feel this, and if you don't, it's all wrong and everything's gonna go wrong. And there's this great sense of threat. Um, and that's probably because when you do have the fearful avoidant attachment style, when you were small, you had to do things a certain way to be safe or to be somewhat safe. So you kind of like internalize that and take that into adulthood and do it to yourself. I have to feel more for my partner. I have to be in love. I have to have all these sparks. Otherwise, it's not good. And I might actually hurt him or her in the future, which is also a part of relationship OCD, that you just don't want to hurt other people. And it's also a part of the fearful avoidant attachment style. You're afraid of hurting others. And so sometimes you just don't engage at all. So relationship OCD is where you obsessively doubt whether this relationship is the right one for you. And the funny, weird, super frustrating thing is that that usually happens in healthy relationships. So when you get into a relationship that has the like normal fearful avoidant pattern, in that it's with very high highs and very low lows, and there's a lot of drama and chaos because that's what your nervous system is just used to, so that kind of like feels like home in a way. It feels familiar. Those doubts will not be there. There will be very intense feelings, but you won't doubt your feelings for your partner. You know that they're there, and you confuse them with love. But then when you get a steady, healthy, a safe relationship, that's when the ROCD can kick in big time. So all of a sudden, there's no threat in the relationship. There's nothing for you to fix. There's nothing for you to prove. And that is just so unfamiliar to your system that your fear brain is kind of like going crazy and just starts obsessively checking, compulsively checking. That was the word I was looking for. Compulsion. Compulsively checking your feelings, whether you feel enough, whether you have enough feelings for your partner. Then HOCD is homosexuality OCD, which actually means that you doubt whether you are straight or gay. And this can also be for somebody that has known that they were gay for years and has come out and has a relationship with a same sex partner. You can start doubting whether you're not straight after all. So it has nothing to do with being gay or not. It just has to do with, what if I am either gay or straight and I have to leave this relationship? I have to break up with this partner. And then POCD, which I found just horrible to have, is when you are afraid or are convinced that you have feelings for little children. And that just, it sucks so much. And how that is related is that you are afraid that you have to go to prison and you are an absolutely horrible person. And so you have to break up the relationship. So with these three that are almost always linked, there is the common denominator that you have to leave the relationship. Like, you do not have a choice. You do not have control over your own destiny. And that's just not true. That's your fear brain kind of reenacting what you have learned when you were younger. A lot of FAs have parents that are pretty authoritative in their parenting style, that use control, that use manipulation, even if if they're not bad people. It's just sometimes it's just because they can't handle their own emotions. They can't handle your emotions. So they start to control and manipulate just to feel safe. And they are not aware that they're doing that. But that gives you the feeling that you don't have control over your own life, over your decisions, over your destiny. And that's not true. So a lot of it comes down to trusting yourself. Do you trust yourself? What comes up when I ask you that question? Do you trust yourself? All right. that was like a little intro into relationship OCD and the other types of OCD that are linked to the fearful avoidant attachment style. Let's see. I see some questions or comments. You mentioned previously the gifts that we FAs can develop, such as being able to read people, strong intuition, etc. These skills are highly valuable in fields such as arts and entrepreneurship, for sure. Yep. On some level, I feel slightly afraid of losing these, despite intellectually at least recognizing the all-round benefits of healing. Any thoughts that you would have would be gratefully received. Yeah, this is it's so logical that you are afraid of losing something when you heal. That is your fear brain keeping you stuck in not healing and in fear, because your fear brain is just convinced that as long as you feel fear, you will be safe. When you let go of that fear, bad stuff will happen. So what can happen is that your fear brain will say, oh well, this is what you value, so you value reading people and having strong intuition. Oh, that's what you're going to lose when you heal. So please don't heal, because you're going to lose that and you'll never get it back. And that's not true. And it's very hard to kind of like break through that. So what helped me was just hearing people talking about being healed, which is one of the reasons I started this channel. So I was afraid of all this. I was afraid of losing everything. I was afraid of losing myself. I was afraid of losing my relationship. And none of that happened. None of that happened. Healing does not make you a different person. It does not take away gifts or skills. You will have all the gifts and all the skills that you have now. The only difference is it won't be fear driven, which means that you have a choice to use those tools and to use those skills. They are still in your toolbox. They are inside you. Nobody ever can take that away from you. So healing, I think, actually amplifies all those beautiful things you have, all those gifts that you have, and you will be able to choose to use them in a way that is for the highest good of you and everyone involved. So that was a very good question, and I hope that that answer helped. Let me know in the chat. Hey, cell biology shorts. Hello, welcome. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. Anybody watching, just put questions in the comments if you have them, or just a random like subject, like could you talk about this, and I will. That's fine too. How can FAs deal with trust violations without feeling like it's the end of a relationship? I notice FAs ties so much to trust, safety, vulnerability. So if trust is broken, everything else comes crashing. Yeah, that is hard, and that definitely is a big trigger for FAs. And unless you're like healed pretty thoroughly, that will stay a trigger for a while. So the way you deal with that is communicating your needs very, very, very clearly to your partner, because what you see as a trust violation as an FA might not feel as a trust violation for somebody that's securely attached. Not saying that you're wrong, not saying that it's bad to feel that way or to feel like your trust has been violated. Your trust has been broken so often when you were younger. It's legitimate that you are very, how do you say that? Protective of your trust. That's good. That's fine. It's just communicating that to your partner, communicating what you need. So what FAs need to feel that sense of trust is consistency, congruency, and that your partner will do what they say they will do. And that is even a step up from like not cheating, obviously, and like not lying. And FAs will pick up on that like nobody else. If stories don't completely line up, or if something is just not right in whatever somebody's telling you. So I mean, please be with a partner that is loyal and that doesn't cheat, and that is very honest. That would absolutely help with your fearful avoidant attachment style. We want to watch out that we don't think that we are so broken and everything is because we're fearfully avoidantly attached. Sure. that is because we're triggered or that we feel violated in whatever way. You deserve a partner that feels safe. And maybe some people would feel safe with a partner that is even, less safe, that is less honest, or that is less loyal. But you deserve a partner that feels very safe and that feels very loyal, and that is loyal. Um, so don't keep thinking like, oh, it's just because I'm so broken and I have to like get it together and just deal with this and heal. You get to have needs. And you get to have needs that come from your fearful avoidant attachment style. That doesn't make you wrong, or that doesn't mean that you don't take responsibility. You take responsibility by knowing what your needs are and by communicating them in a loving and vulnerable way. So communicate what you need to be able to trust your partner. And you can always take into account that you have this wound around trust, but don't make yourself wrong because of it. Everybody has needs, everybody has different needs, and this need for you is very important. And if you are in a healthy and loving relationship, your partner will try their best. They might not always 100% succeed, but they will try their best to fulfill that need for you. Does that help, Keshi? Let me know. Keshi said, true on the part of having authoritative parents as an FA, and I've actually discussed my emotional volatility with my dad. Wow, that's great that you have that conversation. Whom I inherited this from. It helps that he's supportive about the healing. Yeah, that definitely helps, does it? Yeah. Yeah, that's great, Keshi. That's amazing that you talk to your dad. I don't think a lot of FAs have that they can talk to their parents about it. Mm, Gpo says, hello, welcome, by the way. Would it be a bad idea to go see a fearful avoidant at their house a town away after being ignored for 3 to 4 weeks straight? All right. So I don't give advice about what to do in relationship with FAs because everybody's different. Not one FA is the same as another. What I do in these situations when I get asked is I explain what that would do with me. If I would have ignored you for 3 to 4 weeks straight, I am probably in a shame spiral. I am probably like totally retreated into myself, feeling pretty bad about myself. Or I have a completely different reason. I mean, that's possible too. For an FA, anything that comes unexpected feels like a threat. I mean, we might think we like surprises, but then in the end, when we're actually surprised, sometimes that can actually trigger quite a big emotional response that we weren't prepared for. So anyone just showing up unannounced, even if I might have romanticized the idea at some point, is probably a no-go. And you don't know why the FA started ignoring you. I mean, I do not know the whole relationship. That is why I don't give advice, because I never can fully understand the relationship, even when you send me 20,000 texts. So no advice. But generally, as an FA, there is a reason, and that reason probably has nothing to do with you. It really sucks. I totally understand that. It feels very unfair, and in a way it is. But breaking through that actually could be threatening to an FA. How do you go about sorting out legitimate fears from your fear brain? Well, what helped me a lot was journaling. So just brain dumping, as I called it, because journaling felt like I had to write Dear Diary every day and like write a cohesive story, and I didn't want to do that. So I called it brain dumping, just literally whatever was in my brain, get it out on paper. And when I started doing that, I started seeing patterns and I started seeing things coming back. And that really helped me understand my fears. And then sometimes I would just ask why am I afraid of that? Why is that actually a problem? So a lot of the girls that I help they are so afraid to get divorced. But then I ask them why is that a bad thing? And they're like, they don't know what to say because they never went that far as to say, wait, maybe it is okay to get divorced. Maybe it is okay to make a choice now, and with with the best intentions, and it not working out in the end. Maybe that is not that big of a deal. Um, so asking yourself why really really helps, and journaling and seeing the patterns. Um, and I just thought of a different or of another one. Oh yeah. And then what does your human need? What does your human need to feel safe? So usually we're so in our heads feeling unsafe, and as an FA we just want to figure everything out in our head. But in life you just have these things that your human, your little person just needs to feel safe, that are completely fine. And as you start finding the things that you just need to feel safe, like um for instance, maybe a weird example, but in my business, your attachment style will come out in any type or any area of your life, and it could be your business. I was feeling unsafe, and I thought it had to do with just being an entrepreneur and never having that safety. And then somebody asked me this question: "What does your human need?" So it's not my question, and I thought, oh, you know what? I actually don't fully trust my bookkeeper. I started with a bookkeeper, and he was great. He was just really nice, but he started out as well at that time. And then as my business grew, I just felt like he couldn't hold everything. And I had never really sat down and asked myself that, like, do I feel supported? Do I feel safe? What does my human need? So in the end, it was a process, but I changed bookkeepers, and that helped so much. So that helps in identifying legitimate fears. Just asking yourself what your human needs to feel safe. Start setting boundaries here and there where you can, and then yeah, it really helps to know. Okay, this was good. Yeah. Mm. Dream. By the way, welcome everyone. We're with a nice little group. I love it. I love that I get to talk to you guys. Jarima Naveen. I hope I spell your name right. My dad is very very controlling and manipulative and stubborn. He controls everything, single thing. How do I deal with this situation? Important question is: do you still live at home, or do you live on your own? Let me know, and then I'll answer this question. Jipo said, I presented this information about attachment style to my FA, and he said he would look into it, but he has ignored me since. Okay. I understand that this is hard, and this is hard and harsh for you. But one of the most frustrating truths is that we cannot help or fix other people. And I think, especially with the fearful avoidant attachment style, it takes a lot to take that step to heal it, because your fear brain is just very strong, and somebody really 100% has to want to heal that themselves. So there is absolutely nothing you can do to, like, nudge them or force them or whatever. You presenting this information is all you could have done. Like, hey, I think this might be something that's valuable for you to look at. And then there really almost is no other choice as to just let go, because he or she has to make that choice for themselves. And I think as partners of FAs, let's be truthful, you have needs too, and that's fine. That's also good. Like, you are worthy too. And I have so much love for FAs. and I understand them deeply. But that doesn't mean that I think everybody should stay with an FA or should just keep working at it. You have to take responsibility for yourself. The FA has to do that too. And that in the end will help the most people. And I'm not saying FAs are too broken or whatever, not at all. But this is the case for everybody. You have to take responsibility for yourself. And if your FA ignores you for 3 to 4 weeks, that's pretty shitty. That's just a pretty shitty thing to do. Even if I do understand where it comes from and it isn't intended to be hurtful, um, you get to make choices for yourself too. You are valuable. You are worthy. So, yeah, I hope that helps. Ooh. Elia said, I just wanted to let you know that you have helped me so much. Oh, that's so good to hear. I'm so happy. I'm happy you're here. Ref says, whoa, hearing that I have a right to have my FA needs was good to hear. Yeah, absolutely. I tend to disregard them and think that I'm just crazy. Thanks for that. Yeah. No, you definitely, I think one of the ways you heal this attachment style is actually really honoring your own needs. And, whether they come from your attachment style or just from you as a person, as if that's any less important, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. So I feel like I see a lot that we make this distinction, like, oh, but that's just my attachment style. I do that too, or I did that too. I still do that too sometimes. That's my attachment style, so I shouldn't take that seriously. Take everything seriously. As long as you really feel like, okay, but what do I really, really need? Because it's easy to like lash out and be annoyed with your partner for dumb stuff. But that could feel like a need, like I need you to stop chewing so loudly. That's not a need. That is definitely not a need. So when you just sit your ass down and just ask yourself, okay, what is it that I really need? Maybe it's space. Maybe you just need a little bit of time for yourself. All your needs are valid. All your needs are valid. That's all you, whether it's from your attachment style or not. It doesn't matter. You get to have needs when you are vulnerable about them and just communicate them in a loving way. That's all that matters. Kishi says, yes, that's really helpful. I think as I work on healing my trust issues, I will work on communicating them as needs. That's so good. Yep. Truth says, since us FAs have built a subconscious comfort zone of unsafety. That's a beautiful way of saying that. Is there sometimes a danger that we become attracted to people who make us feel unsafe, since that is our subconscious comfort zone? 100%. It's so good that you are aware of this. And that's why FAs, more than other attachment styles, have the tendency to step into the toxic relationships, because those highs and lows and actually the hormonal cocktail that comes with it, that's what you know. That's what just feels familiar. And when we grow up, we get this blueprint of what love is or should be or should feel like from the way we interact with our parents. So when you, for instance, have a very controlling and manipulative dad that you had these highs and lows with, so some moments were actually quite beautiful and actually, you really had these loving moments, and then the next moment he got mad or you guys were fighting. Subconsciously, that's what you attract in a relationship, and not the literal dynamics, but the feelings that it gave you. So the working for approval, for instance, or wanting control by always wanting to be able to know what he is thinking or to know what moment it could go wrong. And it's crazy how attraction works in that way. Like, sexual attraction actually is so heavily influenced by the patterns that we learn when we're younger. And since healing my fearful avoidant attachment style, I'm attracted to a completely different type of guy. When I look back, the types of guys I was attracted to definitely made me feel worthless and made me feel less than and made me feel like I had to work, and I had those highs and lows with them, and they would ignore me for weeks. They wouldn't give me enough attention, and all those things were kind of familiar in my relationship with my dad. Especially the way it made me feel like I'm unwanted, I'm not important enough, I have to prove myself, I have to work for love. So I just kind of like um, sought that out, or was attracted to that. And then when I healed my attachment style, I just noticed that those guys did nothing for me anymore. Like the guys that normally I would be like instantly in love with, it just didn't. No, they didn't do it for me anymore. Which sounds so weird, right? But yeah, sexual attraction is definitely not a set thing, not set in stone. When you heal, you will notice that you will be attracted to different types of people that are much more loving and open and healthy, with which you can build a beautiful relationship. Does that help, Truth? Um, a final question I have is just whether you could share any more examples of the subtle manipulation a caregiver may use to keep control, meet their needs, and the negative impact this has on a child. Oh, brother, I could talk about this for, I think, 3 hours. um, Oh man, there are so many ways. There are so many ways to subtly control a child. And it's so weird because the way children are raised, even now, but like definitely generations before, the way it they were raised emotionally, what is normal now, I am absolutely 100% sure that in 100 years we will look back and we will look at it the same way we now kind of look at spanking our kids. Like that's just not something you do, and it's very clear from research that that doesn't help, that doesn't work. It just creates very scared kids. But emotional manipulation in raising a child, oh man, that's just so prevalent. That just happens all day, every day. And the thing is, there are so many things we say to children that we would never, ever, ever say to an adult. Just the phrase that comes up now is, have you been a good boy or a good girl today? I mean, what is that? Why would you say that? Would you ever say to your wife or husband, have you been a good wife or husband today? It's like, no, that's kind of degrading, you know? And if you do that, don't fret. Like it's so normal. You do your best with what you know, and then when you know better, you do better. Maya Angelou. Um, but there are so many things that people say and do to children that they would never do to an adult. So, just to take one example, the fact that children have to listen, I think actually is such a big part of the problem of why children have a hard time trusting themselves and why they rebel so much. Because in a way, that's control, right? And to give you a very concrete example, so my dad was brought up by his parents that he had to listen. I mean, this never just comes with any parent saying, "Oh, I was raised very lovingly and open and caring, but I'm just going to be controlling and manipulative." That's always like generations and generations of shit and trauma just passed on. So, my dad was pretty controlling because that's all he knew. So I had to listen. I had to listen. And because of that, he was just always so focused on whether I was listening or not. And I guess when I wasn't listening, he felt like I was defying him, that he never really took the time to listen to me. So there was a time when I didn't want to go eat at the dinner table. And I think I was about 7 or 8. This is very personal, but um, it was about when I was about 7 or 8. And he would just get so incredibly mad. And at that time, I really thought I was the worst kid ever. Like I was just a really bad kid. I would be like reading on the couch and dinner would be ready and my mom would call me and I would just not get up. And I thought that's because I'm a horrible human being. And looking back on it, I so see why I didn't get up and get to the dinner table. It was because when I got there and we would sit down and have dinner, that's when we would like have an evaluation of whether I had been a good girl that day. Well, that sucks, you know. At the end of the day, you're tired, you just want to eat, and then they're like, "So you did this and this and this today, and that was not good," and da 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 da. Of course, I didn't want to come to the dinner table, but when my dad would have had the emotional capacity to just listen, to just say, "Hey, I've noticed for the past few days that you've had trouble coming to the dinner table. What's going on?" I actually, if I would have felt safe enough, I would have told him. I would have told him. And then you can work together to find a way to make everybody feel safe. So, yeah. Um, I hope that helps. I almost forgot the question, but oh yeah, examples of manipulation. So yeah, just forcing a kid to listen is actually a form of manipulation. Just to give one example, there are like a million. Does that help? So Biology Short says, how can you go about repairing relationships? I am sure I've cut a few off and did it from a place of fear that had almost nothing to do with them. Do you have any tips on how, if you can mend them? Yeah, this is a beautiful question. Um, Time really does heal a lot. I've done really weird stuff in relationships and friendships that, that just add to the whole shame thing that a lot of FAs have anyway. And those thoughts would come at night. Maybe you know what I mean. Um, and first, I just had to forgive myself. Just see that I am a good person. I am a good person, and I am trying my best, my absolute best. And second of all, everybody does weird stuff in relationships. Like nobody's perfect. Everybody has cut off contact, has ghosted people, either intentionally or not intentionally. It's just what happens with relationships, also. So don't make yourself wrong about it. Don't think it's just because you're an FA that that's happened. And then when time passes, it's actually people, a lot of people appreciate you trying to reach out and offer an explanation. I've done that with people that I felt like I had to do that, or that owed an explanation, that I owed an explanation. And I feel like when you come from a vulnerable place without like dumping anything on them, but just saying, hey, the way that went was not the way I wanted it to go. I'm really sorry if I hurt you or confused you. Um, I was coming from a place of fear. And if I would be able to do it again, I would do X, Y, and Z. And I think just saying that can actually be very healing for yourself, be healing for the other person, but don't feel like you have to. You don't owe anybody really an explanation. There might be a few people that, it just doesn't feel right. And you just want to explain it to them, or try to mend things, but you don't really owe anybody anything. You decide what you do with your time and energy. Um, yeah. So does that help? I hope so. Just says, thank you so much again for this session on your channel. It's fantastic. Oh, that's so good to hear. I'm so happy. I'm so happy you're here, that we're with this group. Yay. Jerima says, I live with my grandparents, but he has control over everything. Me and my brother can be anywhere, and he still controls as much as he can. If I hide stuff, I can get away with it. Otherwise, I can't. That's hard. That's hard, Jerima. That is borderline abusive, actually. If somebody controls things so much that you feel like you have to hide things. And I'm just guessing that boundaries are not really something your dad will accept. If I were you, I would talk this over with a therapist. I feel like this is a little bit out of my scope. So I would definitely talk about this with a therapist, how you can handle this, and and stay strong in this. I'm sorry that you're going through that. That's hard. Jack Brady is here and says, hello, everyone. Welcome, Jack. Jipo says, what do FAs do when they miss you? Oh, that just differs from person to person. Some will definitely try to contact you and be super charming and the magical beings that FAs are and can be. Some will just kind of give up and think it's better if I just don't engage at all because I only fuck things up and I will disappoint at one time or another, at one point or another. So that just really that differs for every FA. Keshi says, I actually saw this cute video on Twitter today. A dad had gone to pick his baby boy from kindergarten early and he found out the kid was lying about being sick and he kept saying to the kid jokingly, you're a waste man, and kid kept correcting him, don't say that I'm a good boy. That baby was quite literally telling his dad, stop assigning that label on me, and dad wasn't listening. Yeah, it's so important to listen to kids. It's so important to listen to kids. Yep. In case she says you're right, it's very important for parents to realize they can reprimand a kid for doing something wrong without attaching labels because that really hurts the psyche. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm definitely not saying that we should just let kids do whatever and not set boundaries, but you can set boundaries in a very loving way. Very loving way. That's a good ad. Jack Brady says, hi, Billy, thank you for doing this. You're so welcome. Can being an FA have an effect on feeling shame and fear relating to sex and intimacy? Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. And I think lots of information I've read about this normally correlates differently. Yeah. It definitely, I mean, attachment styles definitely correlate to sex for sure. And because the FA can lean either anxious or dismissive, it can go two ways. It can go a lot of ways, actually. The pure FA way of going about sex is actually that some FAs are hypersexual, so they kind of like have that connection through sex, or they have poor boundaries, and so they say yes a lot. But then when you're dismissive leaning, you can actually have that intimacy slow down. So just no sex. And I see that a lot with people that actually are in a healthy relationship, because it's weird. Like sometimes a relationship and sex are like two different worlds. Like you have a relationship therapist, but you also have sex therapists. So they're obviously it's all part of relationships, but sometimes it's like different worlds. And what I see sometimes is that in toxic relationships, the sex is really good and both partners are like really into it, but then the rest is pretty shitty. Like the communication is either not there or not good. There's no vulnerability. And for some FAs, that actually feels safe in a way. It feels really scary to be vulnerable. And so sex is just more of like this primal thing. And then when you have a really healthy relationship, what I see a lot is that you have the intimacy slow down because there is so much shame around sex in our Western society. I mean, we have people from all over the world, so I'm not quite sure if it's the same everywhere. But in Western society, we have so much shame around sex. So when you find that person that is actually accepting and loving and something that you've never had before, that love and acceptance, it can trick your brain into saying, okay, well, then maybe he or she is going to reject me when it comes to sex. And this definitely, I think this is even more with like people that might be where you kind of sense that they feel shame around sex too. So you can have a really loving and open and unconditional partner that just has his or her own issues around sex too. And when you feel that, and again, FAs can sense anything, like they have spidey senses like no other. When you sense that, it can happen that you just shut down your sexuality too, because you're afraid to get rejected out of the insecurity your partner feels around sex. Does that make sense? Please let me know if that makes sense. Otherwise, I'll explain a little bit more. But yeah, so it definitely has an impact for sure, for sure, for sure. Summon says, hello, I just joined. Welcome. I want to ask, how can you find ways to heal when it seems like there is not an abundance of people who are secure? I feel like the world is bringing the worst out in all of us. Oh, that sucks. Yeah. Secure people is still 50% of the world. So the thing is, when we are insecurely attached, normally it's pretty logical that we kind of like seek out the people that are insecurely attached to. So what is very important here is that you know how to recognize securely attached people. They are there. They are definitely there. The thing is, when you are not aware of this, you will not see them, you will not recognize them, and you will label them as boring and uninteresting. So it won't be a conscious thing saying, "Oh, that person is securely attached, so I won't interact with them." No, your fear brain is going to label them as boring and uninteresting. So what you can do is actually look at the people that you find boring and uninteresting and see if you recognize the securely attached characteristics, and start engaging with them. Start engaging with them, because if they feel boring and uninteresting because they don't trigger that high low roller coaster of emotions that you are so used to. But they are there. They are 100% there. So pay attention to the people that you find boring and uninteresting. And as you heal, you will see that you will develop way warmer feelings for them and do not find them boring and interesting at all. Someone says, I started anxious and then developed FA as a defense. Yeah, that can definitely happen. Corey Geiger. Geiger? Am I saying that right? Welcome. Glad you're doing this. Do you feel like FA should not pursue relationships at all until they fix themselves? Oh, absolutely not. No. If you are still in a very volatile state, then it might be good to like heal that first. But you heal through relationships. And you are here, which means you are taking responsibility, which is amazing. I mean, everybody that's here, you're amazing. You are seriously so brave for even putting that mirror up and saying, this might be something I have and I want to heal that. That is something a lot of people don't do. You are very brave for being here, for watching these videos, for finding information. So you are taking way enough responsibility to be in a relationship for sure. And the healing happens also through relationships. So yes, you are worthy of a relationship. You are always worthy of a relationship. You do not have to be perfect or completely fixed. Cell Biology Short says it makes a lot of sense to me. I'm more towards the dismissive end, but I totally divide up sex and intimacy, as the intimacy is something I fear. Exactly. That's what you do. You divide up sex and intimacy. You actually explain it better than me. But because intimacy is so scary. It requires you to be vulnerable, to open yourself up, to show yourself, which were like big no-goes when you were younger and your fearful avoidant attachment style developed. So it's not weird that we have a lot of problems doing this. That is hard. So give yourself a lot of grace. Always give yourself a lot of grace. But especially with this, intimacy is just hard. But it leads to the best sex ever. So there's that. Jack says, I think me too. Cell biology shares, I feel so much more comfortable with friends and scared if someone might be attracted to me. That's so interesting, right? Like, why is it so scary if somebody's attracted to you? Like, what can you fuck up? Because that's what we're afraid of, right? We're so afraid to fuck up because we're used to. I've noticed with myself and actually with a lot of my girls too, that there's this like repetitive mantra of, I'll do it wrong anyway. I'm doing it wrong. I'll do it wrong anyway. I'm always doing something wrong. Who recognizes that? Please put it in the chat. Say yes, I, or I do, or give me an example. um, but there's this repetitive thing of I'll fuck it up anyway, or I'm always doing everything wrong because you had that feeling when you were younger. It's logical that you feel that way, that you think that way. But yeah, it definitely is one of the drivers of your fearful avoidant attachment style. And there are different ways that you then deal with that. Like some people lean anxious, so the way you deal with that is I have to try even harder, I have to be even more perfect, I have to do even more, I have to be even more attentive, even more empathetic, even more putting my needs all aside. Or you lean dismissive and you're like, I give up, it's not gonna work, I'm gonna fuck up anyway, so I'm not even gonna try because that will just hurt too much and I will hurt other people, so I'm just not gonna do it anyway. Yeah. Corey says 100% me. Jack says me too. Cell biology shirt says me. Keshi says me. I always preface conversations by telling my friends don't judge me. It's like I always feel like I'm doing something wrong and I need not to be judged. Oh my gosh, yes. So that feeling of always feeling like you're doing something wrong. Yep. Territory. Hello, Territory. Says how to get out of your head, more specifically for someone who has never been intimate. Get acquainted with your body. I mean, you can have sex with other people, you can have sex with yourself. So just learn how to be with your body, in your body, even when you go towards, pleasure, because pleasure is also just something that is so scary for FAs. It's something that wasn't probably very existent when you were younger. And I think a lot of people that have an FA attachment style have parents that have FA attachment styles. And it could be that in the moments you were actually really enjoying the moment. And I'm not talking about sex with your parents, obviously, but I mean, just enjoying the moment when you were younger, like you were out on the beach or whatever. And you were enjoying yourself, you felt pleasure in different ways. It could be that your parent that had the FA attachment style also had no tolerance for the feeling of enjoyment or pleasure. So it could be that that was actually a trigger to your parents, so they would actually get mad or lash out in those moments that you felt really good about yourself. I know I got comments when I felt really good about myself, which are very Dutch, and I don't know if I can translate them, but yeah, they were like trying to put me down a little bit just so that I'm not too enthusiastic, which always made me feel like, oh, apparently I can't be happy. Yeah, and the same thing goes for when you've had that moment of connection with one of your parents or with a parent that has an FA attachment style. It could be that they have that trigger around connection too. So the moment you're connected, and it's a moment, like when you kind of like tune into that, you will feel that moment. It could be that was the moment they get angry, they get critical, they lashed out, they judged you, they started bringing up stuff that you did wrong, just because they were triggered and had no idea what happened. But that's like what their fear brain did. They attacked you. So it's so logical that, feelings of enjoyment, of being in the moment, of like completely relaxing and feeling pleasure of whatever sort is very scary. It's very scary when you have a fearful avoidant attachment style. So yeah, that definitely translates to sex also, because that also requires you to be in the moment, be in your body. So just practice that with yourself. Simon says, as do FA gear toward any specific love languages or not really? This is so interesting. I was gonna make a video on that. I still probably am. If you guys are interested, let me know in the comments. Yeah, I think definitely. I think for the FAs, positive words are definitely very important, because we've heard so much criticism and judgment that really helps, like, replace that voice that we have in our heads of being so judgmental. So positive words, I think, definitely are part of the um, FA specific love languages. And then another one I think is actually quality time, which might not be very logical for an FA in a way, um, because you're also afraid of like connection. But isn't it true that you kind of want your partner close all the time, but just not too close? Do you know what I mean? Do you recognize what I say? Um, so quality time is definitely also one, and I think if you have a healthy, loving partner, wanting to be around them is actually you also wanting to heal, that you can just be yourself around another person and not be judged and not be criticized all the time. So I think those two are actually specific for FA, but also quite healing for the FA. Does that help? Someone says. Cell Biology Short says, thank you for doing this session. Of course, I love this. I love doing this. I love that you're here. We're with 17 now. That's quite a lot. I love it. Are there any questions? We've been doing this for an hour now. So, I mean, we definitely can start going towards the end. But if there's more questions, let me know. Jack asks, in your healing journey, were you able to get here separately from talking with your parents about your experiences, whether maybe hoping for an apology or speaking up for younger you? Yeah, I did not talk to my parents about this. I actually have a pretty good bond with my parents. I'm an only child, so I have nobody else. And we're pretty close, but I didn't really talk to them about this. Definitely not about the attachment style in and of itself. They do know what I do now. So we talk about it now, but not as I was healing. No. So it's not a prerequisite for healing. Like, it's not something you absolutely need for healing. Someone says, I thought physical affection because we're so scared of it. Lol, for me anyway. Yeah, well, that can be too. I mean, we're still also people, even if we're FAs, we still have our own preferences. So when it comes to love languages, there's no research. So that was just like a wild guess. But yeah, I can imagine that physical affection might actually be one. And I can totally imagine that that's actually scary for FAs too, because that obviously comes very close. Corey asks, do you do sessions? I do these sessions. No, you mean one-on-one sessions, I think. But no, I don't. I have a Dutch business. I have Dutch online programs, 2 online programs, also around this. And that keeps me busy. And I have a 1-year-old daughter, and I really want to spend a lot of time with her. Part of the reason why I have the attachment style I do is because my dad was working a lot. And he actually had a burnout for years without him knowing, which made him even more of a landmine. So he would get really, really mad. So I remember when I was about 7 years old, I vowed, if I ever have children, I will not work this hard, because I almost never saw my dad during the week for a long period of time. And when he was there, he was just stressed out and got angry really quickly. So I don't do one-on-one sessions. I did that for a while, and it just took, before I had a baby, and it just took a lot of time. And also, I've been doing this for 5 years now, and the online programs I developed, I used to do one-on-one sessions with them, and I just noticed that it wasn't necessary anymore. Like, the people that wanted one-on-one sessions were the ones that didn't do the work in the program. So it wasn't anyone that did the work in the program actually didn't need the one-on-one sessions. So yeah, they work that well. So I will develop an online program in English. Wasn't really planning on it. I just wanted to make videos on the fearful avoidant attachment style. But yeah, I've got questions so often. So I will I said I will translate one of my programs, but I think I will just make a whole new program. So that's also why I love doing these sessions and just hearing from you directly. I take it all into the program I will be developing, but it will take a while. It's not going to be anytime really soon. Chipo says, is it likely for fearful avoidance to shut everyone else off when they have deactivated from their significant other? Some fearful avoidance do and others don't. Some friends are far enough away that they don't need to deactivate from them. So yeah, I think this just is different for everyone. Territory says how to communicate that you want quality time, but also time to yourself without coming off as contradicting. This is so interesting because everybody wants quality time to some degree and time to themselves to some degree. That's a very healthy relationship dynamic, and actually, the ones that are anxiously attached or are leaning towards anxious, have this belief that you have to want to be with each other the whole time, while when you look at really happily married people, they alternate between having quality time and then having time to themselves, and quality time and time to themselves. That's just a very normal and healthy relationship dynamic. So, yeah, that's not contradicting at all. It's just quality time at some points, and then also have time for yourself. Savannah says, I waited until after I was healed to talk to my parents. Yeah, it's you don't need to talk to your parents, because as when you feel like you need an apology for them, you give them way too much power, um, because that's external factors that you can never control, and you can always heal. You can always heal. So um, yeah, it's fine if you feel like you can talk to them, but you don't have to. Keshi says, how can one work with of dealing with emotional volatility, like specific strategies? This is for sure something I'm still struggling with a lot. Well, tapping helped me with everything, but also with this, with the emotional volatility and also non-reaction. So whenever I feel myself triggered, I just do not react. And in the beginning, I would walk away, which is not ideal, but it's better than being volatile. So I would just either say something or just walk away and feel the anger. Like it's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel the anger. It's another thing to lash out. It's another thing to do the behavior. So you can feel anger, and anger feels like fire. It feels warm, and as soon as you kind of like get acquainted with that feeling without trying to get relief from it, because that's why we do the behavior, trying to get relief from the anger, or from the feeling. When you get acquainted with the feeling and just allow it to be there and allow yourself to kind of burn up in a way and not engage, not do anything with it, but completely allow it, it'll pass. Every feeling, if you do not suppress it at all, will only stay in your body for 90 seconds. 90, so that's 90, a minute and a half. So it's not that when you don't say anything or you don't lash out that you're like bottling it all up. That's what that's what I hear then. Well, aren't you bottling it up then? No, you're not. In a way, you're actually bottling it up when you lash out, because you're trying to get relief, but then you also feel guilty, and then you get in this cycle of lashing out, feeling guilty. Then the next time you're not vulnerably communicating what you think and feel, because you're like, I shouldn't get mad, I shouldn't get mad, I shouldn't get mad. And then you kind of like build up to lashing out again and feeling guilty again, and you get into the spiral. So the way to break that is feeling the anger, but not doing the action. So allow yourself to feel completely. Anger is not a bad emotion. It's not something to judge or be afraid of. It's just an emotion like any other one. It's kind of tough to feel if you've been judging it for a long time, but get acquainted with it, embrace it. It's fire, it's warm, it gives you strength, it gives you power, but you don't need to lash out in the moment. Janima says, I accept people who reject me. Today I finally cut off the person who has been rejecting me since day one, and now I feel like I should stay away from relationships instead of this. Okay. Well, it's okay to cut off the person who's been rejecting you from day one. I mean, it's always your choice. You never have to do anything. But it doesn't mean you have to stay away from relationships. It just means you have to, or you could change your core beliefs, which are a lot of times just attachment beliefs. So there's an attachment belief under this that has to do with rejection. You have to do some digging to find that, um, and then make an affirmation for yourself that is either the opposite or a bridge to the opposite. And I mean, if you feel like I just don't want to deal with the relationship right now for a while, that's fine too. You can absolutely 100% do whatever you want in life. That's the whole point. We do have control, we do have power over our lives. Um, but don't feel like you have to. Salmon says, are you spiritual at all? Do you feel like an FA's sole purpose is to master something in its lifetime, or is it or it's just circumstance? This is a good question. It's a deep question also. For as far as am I spiritual? I mean, I guess I am, not in a strictly Christian sense, but I am spiritual. It's so weird to say. I've never said that out loud. And do you feel like an FA's sole purpose is to master something in this lifetime? No, I don't think that you were destined to be an FA or whatever. I definitely believe in free will, and I believe you can create your life. Um, when it comes to this, and this might seem so weak, but I've gotten to this point after just years, is whatever works for you in believing whatever you want to believe in this, whatever works for you, whatever gives you a sense of expansion, a feeling of expansion, of power, of control, of peace, of calm, of happiness. um, that's right for you. That's your higher truth, and that's all that matters. Corey says, that was definitely me. I shut everyone off I became too close to, when I detached for that person. That was very important to me. Yeah, yeah. It's part of the, it can be part of the shame spiral, that you just feel so unworthy that you just push everyone away. Jarima says, I want to be loved, but I don't see anyone loving me, which hurts so much I can't breathe. Well, so maybe love is just one step too far for now. Um, how about accepting? Is there anybody that accepts you for who you are? And can you affirm that to yourself? And then from that, you can just build up to, um, allowing yourself to be loved. Because I mean, it just sounds like it's all roses and butterflies, but it's pretty hard to allow yourself to be loved when you in a way feel like such a bad person or so unworthy. You will definitely, push people away that are willing and able to completely love you, because that just feels too scary, and you're afraid that when they do, they will. Because being deeply loved is being deeply seen and felt and heard and understood. And when you're an FA, you have probably a lot of core wounds or core beliefs around, I am bad, I am unworthy, I'm a horrible person, there's something wrong with me. So just imagine somebody loving you completely and then seeing you and feeling you and hearing you. You don't want that, because you're so afraid they'll figure something out and then reject you really hard. And especially if that somebody is loving and is accepting and unconditional, you're even more afraid, because you're getting a taste of something you might not have had for a long time in your life. And then, you will do anything to, in a way, to keep that, even if it feels unfamiliar. So you won't let them get too close, because you're just convinced that they will find something that is wrong with you, because you have this belief that you're always doing something wrong, so that means you are wrong, and it's not true, but that's the belief you have. That's like the program your system is running on. So make bridges. Make bridges towards allowing yourself to be loved fully. That's a big step to go, and you are worthy. Just to be absolutely clear, you are worthy of being loved completely. But it could be that that's too much for your system right now. Oh, Jack, that sounds so painful, Jarima. I believe doing what you feel comfortable with will help and will give you a chance to recover. I'm sure, too, though, that we are our own worst critics for sure. That is absolutely true. Look how sweet you guys are. We're amazing. I love this. George says, I know you're a big believer in EFT. Are there any other somatic practices versus cognitive that are especially good for FAs, in your opinion? I've heard good things about EMDR, which is also a trauma processing tool. And then also just yoga and ways to get into your body can help, as long as there's not too much trauma stored there. So it can go either way. But EMDR is actually quite a good way to process trauma. Sorry, I was thinking about the next thing. Okay. We're 1 hour and 11 minutes in. Haha, 111. So I think I'm going to wrap this up. I love this. I loved chatting to you, with you. And I really, really, really hope this was valuable. Please let me know in the comments if this was valuable, if you got something out of it, if there was an eye opener in any way, or you just feel a little bit better. Please let me know. Because that's all I want, and that's what I want for you. Oh, Jarima, thank you so much for doing this session. I felt seen and heard, and this feels so good. It's rare to find people who listen nowadays, even in family, especially in my family. Yeah, it's true. It's true. But there are different types of families, and we are a family now here, and we understand each other on a level that a lot of other people will never get to. So that's also a thing, it's hard having this attachment style, but I notice when I meet other people that have this attachment style and are healing or have gone through it, it's like an immediate bond for life, because we've been through hell together and might not have been at the same time. We might have not known each other at that time, but we know what it's like. We know what our demons are like. We know what it's like to be in the depths of it, in the dark, feeling so alone. So we are a family now too, in a way. That's why I'm very happy y'all are here. Okay, I'm so happy to hear this was very helpful. I'm so happy to see the names that comment sometimes on the videos that you guys are here. Not sure if I will do this again. Probably will, but just time-wise, I would love to, but I just love this. I just love chatting to you, with you. Gosh, is it with you or to you? With you, not to you, I think. And I will see you again in whatever way, shape, or form, in a video or maybe on the next session like this. I hope you have an amazing day, evening, wherever you are in the world. And I am absolutely so happy you are here.